is about building, these are all like different things, building reputation, building a loyalty, getting out there. Money is, of course, the most important thing when you're a business because that's your job. And so here's some of my advice for why we engage in social. Number one, that's where the people are. That you have to go to where your customers are. You have to go to where the people are, and more people are in social. And I was thinking about this, reading this tweet. Oh, is Dave McClure here? He might be somewhere. But talk to your customers, especially those who hate you, because they're taking time to hate you. And guess where they are all hating you on? They're hating you on these social networks. That's where you have to go find your customers. It's simple A to B. You want to find customers, you go where they are. In the social web. Number two, don't let someone else tell your story. My favorite example of this is John Kerry. Swiftboat Veterans for Truth basically sunk his ship. And when you allow someone to tell your story without telling it back, without defining the conversation, you're screwed. And that's one of the key things of social. You get to tell your story. Kanye West is another great example. He has started using social to really engage his audience and to tell his side of the story after a year of just basically getting beaten down. Justifiably, of course. Number three, you build it and they will come is complete and utter bull. You finish that sentence. It's complete and utter bull. And so, no, they're not going to come if you just build it. That happens almost never. That's why they're always, so this goes to my next piece of advice. Great ideas solve two problems. First, they solve a problem that affects people. This is the thing that we think about most. This is why Facebook and Twitter solve a problem of information, or the light bulb solves a problem of illumination, that type of thing. But the second problem that great ideas solve is distribution. An example would be Redbox and Netflix. Plenty of people doing movies, plenty of people doing DVDs, but they solve the problem of distribution first, and that's why they're on top. And so you have to remember that. And social media is a distribution channel, one of the ultimate ones. You need to distribute your message. And so you start by building remarkable things, and then you spread the word using social, and you engage your audience using that. And so here's my final question, and I have a few seconds, so I might not be able to write what you say. Well, I want you to tell me what you think is the common thread between these four brands. Starbucks, Bill Gates, American Red Cross, and Katy Perry. I just wanted an excuse to put her up there. I thought Natalie Portman, but she doesn't really use social media much. She's much better at it. But I just want you to think about what some of these great brands are doing. And as another note, great brands come in many different forms, shapes, and sizes. They have all done remarkable things. Think about why that happened. And so, my final piece of advice to all of you. Social media. Here's what we usually think of it. We think about it as all these tools, the YouTube, the Foursquare, Facebook, Twitter, Wikipedia. I don't know. Yeah, we could keep going with this all day, couldn't we? But if you think of social media as tools, you are a tool. And so this is really social media. Social media is people. Social media is engagement. Social media is conversation. And as I said before, if you think of social media as a tool, then you are a tool. And so just remember, when you're building a remarkable brand, you have to build something remarkable first, and then you have to engage people, because it's all about helping people. That's why we do the things we do. That's why we build startups. That's why we get into relationships. That's why we have friends. That's why we do everything. And so remember that at the core. Social media is about people and conversations, not about tools. And so see you later, and thanks for all the penguins.
Throw his glasses somewhere else. Do you think he can see? This talk is remarkable. Thank you, Ben.
And give her a round of applause.
Great job, Ben. Up next, Claire is also the author of the Facebook Era. I'm very excited to have you. Come on up. I'm really excited to take the stage.
Great, well, it's great to be here. Thanks for joining me. Just so that I'm sorry, I know that there's just a couple talks standing between viewings and drinks, so I'll try to be brief. What I'm going to talk about over the next 15 minutes is the Facebook era and how social networking sites, not just social media, but specifically social networking sites, are changing the discipline of sales and marketing. And my talk is going to be about people. To Ben's point, not about people, it's about people. And I'm going to talk a lot about psychology and about sociology and how Facebook and Twitter are altering our society's social norms and how we communicate with each other. Okay, in the spirit of practicing what we preach, I encourage all of you in the room who are on Twitter or Facebook to follow along so that we can keep this dialogue going on well after today's event. We've all seen this graph. It's absolutely incredible what we're seeing on Facebook. And as Ben mentioned, whether you're marketing or sales, B2B or B2C, we have to be where the customers are. And additionally, many of our customers, many of our audiences are on Facebook and they're on Twitter. It's interesting though, because so many of us in this room are building social games or building some sort of way to leverage Facebook or integrate with Facebook, but we don't actually use Facebook or Twitter for marketing. And I'm curious, how many of you are currently have started a Facebook page or running Facebook ads for your business? Raise your hand. Okay, so less than a third of you. So this is really interesting that we use it in certain ways, but not in others. Maybe in the more common ways that brands are using it, as I mentioned. Well, it's interesting because whether you're a big brand, like Katy Perry or like Coca-Cola, or you're a startup, we're seeing data that shows that someone who's socially engaged with you on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter more specifically, they're 7 times as likely to buy from you overall across their customer lifetime. And they're 3 times as likely to tell a friend. And the interesting thing about social networks is that they don't have to actively tell a friend. Because when they become a fan of your page, or sorry, if they like your page, or they follow you, or they retweet you, or they somehow engage with you and it shows up on their newsfeed, the broadcast nature of Facebook and Twitter ensures that their friends will know. And so there's almost a built-in word-of-mouth mechanism in these social networking sites. And so more than ever, customer loyalty is extremely valuable. So think about that in your user acquisition plans. And how can you actually create a multiplier effect by engaging with your customers, making them loyal, and having them kind of interact with your brand on these social networking sites. And so as a result, as Ben mentioned, we're seeing brands shift dollars into social media at a time when we're still not sure if we're out of the recession yet. We're seeing that companies are allocating their marketing dollars. The one line item in most marketing budgets for the big brands that is increasing is for social media. And so as we think about our own startup budget, as small as they are, we might want to think about those same things, depending on whether our audiences are on these sites. And so at the heart of this, part of the Facebook era is really this, it's the Facebook profile. The Facebook profile has become our template for online identity. Because before the Facebook era, there was no way of sharing who we were. The profile is interesting. It's our picture, it's our date of birth, it's our favorite books and movies, it's where we work, what our job title is, where we went to school. I mean, we didn't share this information before. Before Facebook, you might know someone for months and even years and not know some of this information, not know their religious and political views, not know where they're from or how old they are, or who you knew in common. And what Facebook has done, what the Facebook era has done for all of us as a society, is that it's created a new social norm where not only is it socially acceptable to share this information, but it's actually an expectation that you'll share this information in a semi-public manner. And technologies like Google Friend Connect and Facebook Open Graph or Facebook Connect ensure that these online identities don't just exist on Facebook.com. You can bring these